it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to day 10 of my 2024 holiday card series. Today I'm going to be using Mama Elephant's The Nutcracker and Cozy Christmas stamp sets to create a card. So if you watched my day 6 of this year's holiday card series, I created this card for you guys, and I explained in that video that I was actually going to make 2 cards in one video that day, but this one ended up taking too long, and so I decided to split them up. So today I am bringing you that second card. So it's going to be different. There's going to be some similarities to them, but this one is definitely going to look different than the first. So I am going to start with the little girl's skin. This is Clara from the ballet The Nutcracker. And for her skin, I'm using E000, E00, and E11, adding a little E11 under her hairline on the sides of her arms, and I am going to give her bare legs for this card, just to make it a little bit different. Blending out with the E00, and then using the E triple for the highlight. And then I'm going to color in some of these little angel toppers. They are actually going to be sugar plum fairy ornaments for my card today. I just wanted to do something a little bit fun and different. For my Nutcracker, I am going to switch to E00, E11, and E33 and do his skin a little bit different than I did in the previous video. I just wanted to go with a little bit of a darker skin tone, and I thought this also kind of looked a bit like wood as well. So that's what I used for him, and then I'm going to do a few more of my sugar plum fairies using just the darkest 2 shades. I wanted them to have all different kinds of skin tones. And then I will also do the little Nutcracker doll in Clara's hand to match the large one, since they do look identical. Then I am going to switch to E21, E23, E25, and E27 for Clara's hair. And I did do it brown in the previous video, but I did use different colors. So I thought I would just try something a little bit different. So I'm starting with my E27 and adding a little bit of that darkness at the back of her head, and then also where it's gathered where her bangs are, at the top and bottom of her bangs, and then also the top and bottom of the curls that you see on the side. So anywhere that the hair is gathered is where I like to put my shadows, and then any place that would kind of be like bumped up is where I like to have my highlights. So I'm blending out the E27 with the E25, then I added in a little E23, and I will finish with the E21 so that it looks a little bit shiny there. And then once I have her hair done, I am actually going to do some more of my sugar plum fairies. I'm going to do some of their hair with the E25 and E23, and then I'll do some of their skin with that same combo as well. Just to mix it up again, like I said, I wanted to have different skin tones and hair colors. And I am going to take the E27 with the E25 for some of the hair, just to kind of mix it up, but not bring in too many additional colors. Then I just went a slightly darker with the, keeping the E25 and E27, but added in the E29. And I'm going to give my Nutcracker some brown boots and also a brown belt. I decided I didn't want to have any gray or black on this card, so I decided to use brown for the things that you would typically think would be black. I needed a softer highlight to really create the contrast, so I went back and added in my E23. And I did forget to color in the Nutcracker doll's boots at this point, so I went back and did that later off screen. Then I am going to move on to R00, R21, and R22 and give everybody some rosy cheeks. Using that R22 first, just a little tiny dot of that. I'm even going to do it on the sugar plum fairy ornaments. It's super tiny and not very visible on most of them, but it just adds a little extra pop of color, I think. Then I'll blend out the R22 with the R21, just softening that a tiny bit. And once I have all of that, I am going to color in some of the Sugar Plum Fairies dresses using all three of these shades. So I'll just pick a few. I want them to have different skin colors and hair tones. So I'm just randomly picking a few here, starting with the R22 and blending down with the R21, and then using the R00 for a highlight. And I'm also going to do some of my gift bows or gift wrap with this combo. So I'm kind of just picking and choosing some different gifts to have in that shade. I wanted to keep a fairly simple color palette for this card, and it is a different color palette than what I used on the first card. The layouts will be very similar, but I did want to make each of these cards unique. I just like to make each of my cards unique. So even when I'm making multiples, I try to do something a little bit different to just mix it up a bit. So then I wanted to go a bit softer for some of the other Sugar Plum Fairy dresses. So I brought in R000, and on those I just started with the R21, so I did not use the R22 for that. And I will also use this combo for some more of the little gifts. Then I'm going to darken up this combo, keeping the R21 and R22 and adding in the R24. I wanted to do the Nutcracker's jacket in red, but I wanted it to be a softer red. I went dark on the first card, so I wanted to do more of like a coral red for this one. So the R24 is my darkest. I used that for my shadows. And again, remembering to color in the Nutcracker doll. And then I'm going to blend out that R24 with the R22, just coloring carefully around all of those buttons. And then I will use the R21 for a highlight. And I think that just gives him a little bit of a softer look. It's more of maybe like a vintage Christmas look to have those softer tones. I am going to do another gift bow with this combo. And then I also decided to do Clara's bow in this red, just to kind of tie in with some of the other images. I wanted her and the Nutcracker to have matching outfits, sort of, just to have, maybe not matching, but coordinating, so that, you know, there's like little bits from each of their outfits that match. So I gave her the coral bow on her head. And then I am also going to do the bottom, like curved part of the rocking horse to be red as well. So for that, I started with the R24 on either end, and then I'm just blending toward the center of that piece with the R22 and then the R21. And then I also did the little pom-pom on the tops of the Nutcracker's hats with this combo, just to tie it into their jackets. And then I'm going to switch colors to a creamy shade. I'm using E40, E41, and E42 for the body of my rocking horse. Starting with that E42, just doing a little bit of shadow there. I'm also going to use that for the Nutcracker's hair and beard. And I'm just doing all of these at once rather than switching back and forth between markers. It just saves a little bit of time. I did the bottom little piece of his shirt that you see in the where his jacket kind of comes together, and also his gloves. I gave him white gloves. And then I'm going to do all of my Sugar Plum Fairy wings, just adding a touch of that where it joins their bodies. And then I'll start blending out with the E41. I do want to leave some white space on all of these items so that they still look like a creamy white. So I'm not going to fill any of these areas in completely. So when I come in with my final shade, that E40, I'm just going to blend that E41 into that white space, but leave a little bit of a highlight showing all throughout. And that way it just gives it some definition, but still kind of looks like a white or an off-white. I added that to my Nutcracker's gloves, and I didn't bother with the doll Nutcracker because his hands are so tiny you can't even really color them in. And then I'm going to do 2 more of my gift boxes, so it would be the wrapping paper, and 1 more of the gift bows. So like I said, I'm kind of sticking with almost like 3 different shades for the main color palette, aside from like the neutrals and of course the green of my Christmas tree. So my 3rd shade that I wanted to bring in is kind of like a blue lavender, and so I'm using BV01, BV02, and BV04 for Clara's dress, adding my shadows in with that BV04, and I thought I would give her little slippers to match. I believe in the play she is wearing slippers because I think she comes down in her nightgown. Isn't that right? Because I'm pretty sure it takes place in the middle of the night on Christmas Eve. I have seen the movie adaptation, but I've never seen the ballet. But I have an update for you guys. I actually mentioned that I've never seen the ballet in my previous video. But yesterday I walked into work and somebody in the play, the Nutcracker Ballet, had left a poster there, and I just took it as a sign. I was like, oh my gosh, I've just made this Nutcracker card. I've always wanted to see the ballet, and they were advertising the ballet. And so I quickly texted my husband and asked him if he would be willing to go with me, and he said yes, and so I got tickets. So we're actually going to go see the Nutcracker Ballet the weekend before Christmas. It's actually going to be part of my Christmas present from him, and I am so excited. I have always wanted to see it, and like I said, I've seen the movie adaptation, but I don't know how faithful it is to the actual play. So I'm very, very excited. I think it's going to be a super festive evening to get dressed up and go to our local playhouse at the theater and see the production. I've never seen any ballet before, so I'm really, really excited to go. And I know I keep using play and ballet interchangeably, and I know they are different. I just am not very knowledgeable about the ballet, so forgive me for that if it's totally wrong. So back to the coloring, you'll see that I did end up adding in a 4th shade. Once again, I just felt like I needed a little extra highlight, so I added in the BV00. And once I finished Clara and her dress and slippers, I colored in the Nutcracker's pants and hat to match. And now I'm working on some of the gifts, or the rest of the gifts, either the gift wrap or the bows. I am going to finish up with this blue-violet tone. And then I will also do the Nutcracker doll's hat. I forgot when I was doing the large Nutcracker, but I remembered in time while I still had these markers out. So I did that, and then I'm also going to do the saddle on my rocking horse in this tone to match. So all of the little accessory images are in shades of this coral red or pink and the blue violet and the creamy white. And then I am going to add just a tiny bit of yellow in here as well. I'm going to do Y11, Y13, and Y15 for the rocking horse's mane and tail. I'm going to do the stars on the Nutcracker's hats. I'll do their little gold details on their jackets, and then I will do some of the Sugar Plum Fairy ornaments, their hair, and then also the star that is going to go on the top of our Christmas tree. I also gave the Nutcracker some gold cuffs on his jacket and gold trim on his boots, just to make them look really nice and festive and dressy. And I did the buttons on Clara's dress and her slippers and the Nutcracker's jacket with just the Y15. Then for my Christmas tree, I'm going to use G40, G43, and G46. And I'm going to start at the bottom of each layer and section with that G46 and just kind of feather that color upward. Just real quick and easy. And in the previous card, I used a Christmas tree from the Busy Elves stamp set. But on this one, I wanted a really tall Christmas tree because I was going to have Clara and the Nutcracker kind of standing a bit in front of it. And so I wanted the tree to look like, you know, it was kind of filling up the room. And so I went with this larger tree from the Cozy Christmas. So once I have that G46 on there, I'm going to start blending up with the G43. And my camera died in the middle of that, but I just turned it back on to finish quick. And then I am going to come in with that G40, which is such a lovely shade of very soft green with a little bit of like a yellow undertone, which kind of helps tie in those little bits of yellow accessories. So I'm just going to finish that off. I wanted my Christmas tree not to be too bright and bold. I wanted you to really see those Sugar Plum Fairy ornaments standing out on top. And now that the coloring is done, I'll trim these images out with their matching dies. So just like with the previous Nutcracker card, I am going to use pattern paper for my background and on my card base. So I'm choosing a couple of prints here to use. On the first card, I used a soft blue snowflake print for the background. On this one, I'm going to use the pink snowflake print, and then I'll trim out the other pieces there. So the background I trimmed down with the second largest of the Lawn Fawn large stitch rectangle stackables, and I'm going to pop that in my MISTI with the darker part of the pink down at the bottom, so that it just gives a little bit of grounding to my card because I'm not going to add a floor. But I am going to stamp a sentiment in that top right corner. I'm using the Scripty Christmas stamp set for that and stamping that in VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And I will stamp that down twice to make sure it is nice and bold and legible, especially since we've got a little bit going on that background, even though it is kind of soft and pale in that top corner. And then I'm going to pop my card base in my MISTI, and just like the previous card, it is going to be MFT Snow Cone cardstock, and I'm stamping on the inside in Lawn Fawn Merman ink. And I chose one of the other Nutcrackers, and then the sentiment says, "'Tis the season to be jolly." I just liked that it was about the same size as the Nutcracker, and so I could place them side by side. Now I'm ready to start adhering these pattern papers down. I'm going to use the red plaid first, and I've trimmed that down to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so it's going to cover the entire front of my standard A2 size card. And then I'm going to add this pink candy cane stripe vertically down the center of the card. Just make sure I have that on there nice and straight. And then I'm going to take the snowflake print, which was actually the back of the red plaid. Love using double-sided paper because you get so much extra use out of it. So I'm just going to flip that over and glue that down on the snowflake side. And then, just like with the first card, for a little extra interest, I'm going to add a sheet of vellum. It just gives a little texture and kind of a filtered effect. And I am placing that glue only where it will be covered by my focal panel. So I'm just holding that in place, and then I've added some Scotch 3M foam tape to the back of my focal panel so we have some dimension on this card. And I will line that up in the center of that vellum piece and pop that down into place. And then I can bring in my images. And I'm going to start by laying out my larger images because it is a tight squeeze on this card around that sentiment. And the Christmas tree was going to have to hang off that focal panel onto the vellum piece. And so I also wanted to have the Nutcracker hang off the focal panel just a tiny bit on the right hand side for balance. So I kind of laid those out how I wanted them, and once I'm happy with their positioning, I can start by adhering the Christmas tree, since that's going the furthest back, and it really is tight there with that sentiment, but I want to make sure that the branches don't overlap any part of it so that it's still very legible. And then I'm going to add that Nutcracker, and just the edge of his hair is going to hang over the focal panel. But I just felt like something should, since the tree is over on the left. I'm going to add a little gift in front of him, so I remember to save that space before I add Clara. I'm not going to glue her down yet because I want to work on some of these other gifts first. I wanted to create a little pile at the base of the Christmas tree. And again, this gift is hanging over the edge of that focal panel just a tiny bit onto that vellum as well. And then I'll add another gift under the tree, just kind of staggering them. The rocking horse is going to go in front of them, so I'm using him as a placeholder to kind of figure out my positioning. And for this other little gift, which has the bow in the corner, I turned it at a different angle just to make it look a little bit different. So one of the bows is at the top left corner, and then the other one is at the top right. And then I tucked another little gift back behind those two. I'll place the rocking horse down in front, just making any adjustments now while that glue is still wet. It's not a lot of time before it dries permanent, so I have to move quickly. And then once I am happy with all of that, I can add Clara. And then all that's left is to decorate my Christmas tree. So I'm going to start with the star that goes on top. And I'll just have to find that in my little bowl. And then I'll add that. And by the way, I would love for you guys to comment down below and let me know when you put up your Christmas tree. I don't know. I am going back and forth. I really want to do it early this year, like possibly even before Thanksgiving. But my problem is it really does block a lot of the light from the front window. And also we have a bench in front of our front window where our dog likes to lay and watch the world go by and watch for us to come home. And in order to place my Christmas tree there, which is really the only place we have for the Christmas tree, I have to move that bench away. So she loses her place and it makes the room a lot darker. So I'm not sure when I'm going to put my tree up this year, but I really want to do it early. I'm just feeling festive. I don't know. So leave me a comment down below and let me know when you're putting your tree up this year. So I decorated my tree with those sugar plum fairies, and now I have added a little sprinkle of clear sequins in 2 different sizes around that sentiment and kind of filling in some of the empty space above Clara's head. So I'm going to glue those into place using my Barely Art Precision Craft Glue and my Studio Katia embellishment wand. And then I let those dry for about 30 seconds to a minute, and I'm going to fill the centers in with some Stardust stickles. It just adds a little extra sparkle. I'm also going to add some glitter to the stars on my Nutcracker's hats, to Clara's bow, to the saddle on my rocking horse, all of the gift bows under the tree, and all of my sugar plum fairy ornament wings. So there's a good bit of sparkle on here, but it's Christmas. I think it's totally fine and even a bit expected. And that is going to finish up this card, so I will lift that up so you can see all of the detail, hopefully catch some of that sparkle and shine, and give you another peek at the inside. And then I will also bring in the first card so you can kind of see the comparison. So like I said earlier, these were planned to be filmed in one video, so there's definitely some similarities between the two, but it ended up just being too long, so I split them up. But I hope you enjoyed both of them. If you did, please give the video a like and leave me a comment down below. I love to hear from you. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell if you want to be alerted when I post new videos. The products I use will all be listed and linked in the description bar below in case you'd like to pick up anything for yourself. And if you'd like to keep watching, here is day 10 of the previous 2 years of holiday card series. So thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I hope you had a good one, and I'll see you soon in another video. Bye-bye.